Really appreciate this. So let's kick off with, I guess, a nice easy one. Can you tell us a bit about you, your business, what it is that you do?
Yes, I'm Donna Hall, and I want to say thank everyone for coming and listening today, because this is something I'm really passionate about. At the moment, there's a stigma linked to hoarding and hoarding disorder, and I'm out there to help change that and educate people. I run a cleaning business called the Specialist Cleaning Group in Bedfordshire. We are working up and down the country daily with people living in cluttered homes and hoarded properties, and we're coming across the same thing time and time again. Can everyone hear me? And we're coming across the same thing time and time again, and people are scared to come forward. People are living in fear of what others are thinking about them. So for who I am, I want to get the message out there and help people living in hoarded homes and help their friends and families.
So, I mean, this is such an interesting and important conversation. So let's talk about what the differences are between someone who has hoarding disorder and maybe someone who's just untidy or is cluttered and just needs help decluttering, and then it will be okay. So what's the difference there?
So a cluttered home is a home that I'm familiar with from time to time. I guess we all are from time to time. It might be when I've had a busy week and everything gets dumped on the dining table, or a couple of the sofas are a bit more full than usual. And from that I can tidy that up. I can spend a couple of hours and all things are back in their place again. They have a home. But someone that's living in a hoarded home, it's not the same. It's not about the 10-minute, 2-hour, 3-hour tidy up. It's a home that is no longer able to be used for its intended purpose, and that means they're no longer able to maybe use the bathroom, the showers might not be working, or the bathroom might be full of belongings. It could be that the bedroom is no longer able to be used as a place to sleep. So the difference mainly is the property is no longer being used for its intended purpose, and that a 2-hour quick spruce up won't really make much difference.
So just picking up on what you sort of mentioned there, do you find, you mentioned just sort of the different areas of the home, is it tend to be the entire property, or do you find that someone might hoard in just a room, that's where they keep it, so if someone comes around they might not see it, but it's still actually an issue that needs dealing with?
I think generally it's the whole home, but not always, and to start with it might be a room. It might be, say, a spare room, a spare shed, and then that gets full, so then maybe it goes to another space. It's not something that develops over the space of a couple of months. It's like years in developing. So it may just be cluttered to start with. So you could start with a cluttered house, and then it just builds up and up and up. And the main thing is there's excessive acquiring going on, which could be purchasing or being gifted items, but at the same time, people are finding it hard to let anything go. So the balance is just not evening it out. So the kitchen, lounge, hallway, front door area, everywhere becomes full of items because the spaces where they're generally allocated to are no longer available.
Fine, well, I mean that completely makes sense. I think we can all probably relate to that, whether we have people in our lives who are going through that, or for ourselves, or whether we've seen it on TV. With that in mind, there is a little bit of preconception, I'd say, when it comes to hoarding. People from the outside can easily look in and just go, well, it's just a mess, just tidy it, just get rid of it, it's easy. What are the biggest misconceptions between that attitude and actually someone who is a hoarder, and what help do they need?
I think the biggest two misconceptions are people are considered lazy, people are considered dirty, or no one's even ever thought about it, because when do we ever think about hoarding disorder if we're not associated with it in any way? I guess the only way, and for me before I worked in this area, the only way I ever knew anything about it was via TV programs. And those TV programs are very sensationalist and they're for the viewing figures. They're not really there for the person that the support is for. And often they're orchestrated to make it look like something that actually they're not. So we're getting the wrong idea from these TV programs that it's just like a team of 5 people in the house next week and all of a sudden everything's absolutely fine and the rest of the life is sorted, because that's just not the case.
And I mean, even build back up again?
There's a really, really high percentage of reoccurrence. If people have a reset clean or a clearance, which has often been the route that companies and people have chosen to take, the percentage is really, really high of reoccurrence, because it's not about the belongings, it's about the person, it's about their mindset, it's about their life journey, trauma, all those sort of things. So it's not really about the belongings, it's about how the person's mindset is with their belongings.
And the other, sort of again, from the outside looking in, maybe to do with those TV shows, it's just a skip, right? Everything goes in and it's done. That's, I can only imagine, is not the right approach.
No, a skip can be really, really scary, but a lot of people will say, yeah, let's get a skip and put everything in the skip and the person will be fine. For people living in hoarded homes, a skip acts as a label saying this home is hoarded. Obviously to the outside world people are thinking that, but for the person they often think that, so a skip is a really tricky and controversial route to go. The other thing is if the skip's there and things are put in the skip, overnight people are tempted to go back to grab their things because they're still there, they're not gone. So when we work with people, it will always be in a van and it gets taken away that day if items are leaving. And we are trying to avoid like the skip route where possible. So we try and avoid any labelling. On that aspect, we would never go in a labelled van, or go van, and those sort of things, because we don't want to pinpoint anything, but we're doing that.
Well, let's delve into that in a little bit more detail. I'd love to explore a couple of other areas as well, but in particular, to do with the approach. So how would you, as a professional, and then we'll talk about friends and family help, how would you as a professional go in to help someone who does have a hoarding disorder?
So the first thing would be to develop rapport and get to know the person, because they're putting us in a massive trust situation. So let us into their home, and we have to remember some people have been into the home for 10 years or more. They've not let a single person in, and very, very kindly they're letting us in. And it may not be the first time we knock on the door. We might knock on the door and chat outside to start with, or we might meet someone at a coffee shop to start with. Often we meet someone in a mutual place just to get to know each other without the fear of actually seeing the home. They may not be ready for us to see the home. So the first stage is develop rapport, get to know each other, and then when people are ready, we can then go into the home. Often then, once we're in the home, people want to show us around very quickly and show us everything, because the minute we step over that threshold, they're saying, I'm letting you in, and they seem to feel like now's the time I'm going to let you know absolutely everything. And it's a real offloading part of the process. Straight away they're feeling a little bit lighter, not in any major way because it is a very difficult process, but just that step through the door. And then we just go with the client on where they want to work, what areas they think are best. We might suggest areas to see what they think, but it's always down to them where we're going to start.
Okay, so if they are coming to you for suggestions, it seems it's the whole house. That might be quite overwhelming for somebody. So would you recommend items to start with, or I should imagine it might be slightly different throwaway bag of rubbish or out-of-date food compared to a gift that a loved one might have given you. So there's more sentimental items. So how do you navigate through that whole sort of array of different emotions and different items that have different meanings to people?
It's really difficult to work out a set system for everyone, so everyone's very different. But we do have processes in place where it might be someone wants to get a whole room done, and then we'll go on to the next room. Other systems we try using are easier items first, so like you said, like rubbish, out-of-date food, maybe medications that aren't used anymore, clothes that haven't been used worn for a long time. Just working with the client and seeing what works best for them, and for us and the client, it's an experimental process. It's about, let's try this. Is it working? Let's keep going. If it's not, maybe we can address why it's not working if we're ready, and then go on to something else. So it's very much experimental, what's working, what's not. Because when we're talking about a hoarded home, we're talking about a home that's from floor to ceiling in most rooms with belongings. It's a home where There may be no electric, no gas, no water even, because they've been too fearful to let people come in and make repairs. So you might suggest those areas first, so where the boiler is, maybe we can work in that area and make the rooms up to the boiler clearer, so maybe they might let someone in the home to come and check the boiler.
So it's a very personal journey that you sort of break up depending on the person. With that in mind, when it comes to the overwhelming talk, like you said, you've got different areas you can start in. For someone who's just really struggling to get going, and even throwing that bag of rubbish away can seem too much, how would you help someone take the first step?
So overwhelm is pretty much consistent for most people living in a hoarded home, and I think it's really misunderstood. It's sort of like, well, let's just try and find what motivates you and then we can move on with it. But overwhelm is someone trying to keep themselves safe. In this situation, they're keeping themselves in a safe situation. They're frozen because they're scared of doing things, they're scared of letting things go, they're scared of making the wrong choices. So it's about finding a way through that fear or alleviating the fear possibly, and only then can you start to move forward. So someone may have lived a traumatic life, or there may be bereavement in the family, and since that bereavement they've developed hoarding habits. So then it's about, we can't just work on these belongings, we need to work on what's happened, talk through it, can we find something else to fill that void, and then we can start letting things go. So it might be a journey of time before we start decluttering.
Wow, I mean there's so much to it, that's so much more than what just the sentence "let's de-hoard" goes sort of suggests. So on average then, you mentioned that it's not just a 2-hour or a 1-hour TV show for everyone's getting done. How long will this process take? I know there must be some flexibility with the person you're sort of dealing with, but on average, realistically, how long would it take to de-hoard, clear a hoarding home?
So our process is very different to many people. We work on a weekly or daily basis depending on the client. Many are weekly, say 3 or 4 hours a week is a rough generalised amount of time we go. So if we said we were going to someone for 3 or 4 hours once a week, and their house was, there's levels of hoarding in the professional field, you have like numbers to classify. So professionals then know what they're talking about, it's not derogatory language. But if it was a high level of hoarding, it could take anywhere up to a year to work through that. But that process helps people come to terms with what's happening, rather than saying, right, so let's go in today, let's empty everything, and then you leave, and they don't even know their home anymore. They become disorientated, not sure where their belongings are. So doing a slower process, people can come to terms with things on such a slower level, there's no added trauma.
Yeah, I mean that makes such a lot of sense, especially like I said, if people are working through so much, don't sprint before you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's move on then from you as a professional dealing with that. I'm sure maybe people here have experience with friends or family members who are going through this.
Yeah.
On the outside again, it's very frustrating. You want to get in there and really help. How would you, or what would you advise to people who have someone in their life who are going through this? How can they help?
First of all, it's really, really hard if you're someone helping someone or supporting someone that's living in a hoarded home. It's about having kindness, being a good listener, encouraging but not telling. We all want people to live a safe life, and if we've got a family, friend or neighbour even that's living in a home that we don't feel safe, we can find it very hard to understand why they're living like that. And you have to be aware that people can only move forward when they're ready. So educate yourself, understand the condition, it's a mental health disorder, it's recognised. Be a good listener, drop some ideas at the right times, but be that person that's always there, because relationships do break up, and just be someone that can be there and just listen. And if someone wants some help, be there to help, but also be there just to be a good listener and look after yourself, because it's a really stressful time for you as well.
And with what you were saying there about educating yourself and getting to know the details of the disorder before trying to move in there, are there any, you mentioned there's lots of resources out there to condition, where you recommend anywhere?
There's lots and lots of books out there. If you pop onto Amazon and type in hoarding, something will come up. There's lots of British authors. Joe Cook's amazing. And always contact us, and our details are on some cards that are left on the chairs, but we'll leave some more around. Because I'm more than happy to have a chat with someone and just listen to them, because it's so stressful for them, and just help. We have our support group, which is a support group for people who are living in hoarded homes, but it's also a support group for family and friends. So they can come along to the support groups as well. Obviously, I'm just me, so we do only have one support group going at the moment, but hopefully that will change going forward.
I love that you're online as well as in person. That must be a barrier that people face even coming to a group, so maybe being able to do it online. Do you see a lot of people engaging with that?
Definitely.
That's scary, I guess.
We have a lot more engagement online than we do in person. And the reason I set that up is to start with, we were just going out to people's houses, working on people's properties. And I recognised that when we finished, there was a gap for our needs still. I also recognised that I want to reach more people, and geographically I can't, and also I can't reach the people that are still not ready to let me into their homes. So by creating an online space, which we have online memberships, and we have Facebook groups and people are on Facebook. I'm also on all other social medias with tips and hints that people can just, I don't even need to know they're there. They can just go and have a look, and if they feel ready to ask for help, then great. But if not, just have a look, listen. In our Facebook group, we've got over 5,000 people in there, and everyone is in there with kindness and love. It's such a lovely group. And when I ask people, like, what's the biggest thing you've got from this community, it's generally, I recognise that I'm not the only one, and I don't feel alone now. And I think that's really powerful, because feeling alone is a scary place.
And especially with this condition, by the sounds of things, it is just very isolating. Everything about it means that you're not letting people in the home, or not. Does it lead into other areas of life, like going outside and engaging with people as well?
Absolutely, because people start thinking, because there's a stigma linked to hoarding disorder, people wrongly, but it is part of their life, feel like they have a label on their back. So then they stop going to events, they stop going out and about, they stop going to family events, and then they become more isolated, and we know what isolation can do. It brings on depression and all sorts of things. So it's just a real vicious cycle that happens.
And I should imagine that only makes the hoarding worse as well.
Absolutely, because that's what these people are choosing hoarding as a coping mechanism. Other people might choose drugs, alcohol, eating. And this is not their choice, they've chosen it, but this is the avenue they've gone along, whereas the rest of us might act in another way. And sometimes it's in place to really help them get through life, and if they don't do that, they might not get through. So it's acting at that time as a coping mechanism, and we have to recognise that that's where people are at.
Yeah, and like I say, it's just so much more. There's so much more to it than I think. Like we said, we saw that TV show for half an hour. Just let everyone know, we are going to open this up to questions and answers. Well, questions, answers, hopefully, in a few minutes. So if anyone does have anything that they want to ask Donna, do let us know. I do know it's quite a personal topic as well, so we will save a few minutes at the end. So if anybody wants to come up and chat, if you prefer to do that, that's perfectly fine as well. Just a couple more things before we reach that moment. I'd love to talk about the exit strategy, but the things that have been hoarded. We don't want that skip. But I should imagine there's a little bit more than what would just fit in the weekly bin. So is there an element of having to prepare before you can start to hoard? Do you have to think about where you look at these things? If not, they're just going to sit by the door or outside.
I mean, if you're doing it by yourself without our help, that's going to be a massive thing. Have you got a car to take things to places? Because not everything's going to fit in your bin. Is there a local charity you want to support when you let your items go? Can you get your things to a charity shop? Is there a local charity to do collections? Because some charities will come and collect items, but not in every area. So there's lots of homework almost that has to be done. For us, in our local area, we know who will take our items if people want stuff to go to charity, and we'll drop it off at a charity shop for them. We also can take the waste, but as a business you have to have waste licences and things like that, so it's a little bit different. Lots of homework on where items can go, because most people don't just want to put items in the bin, and a lot of the time the hoarding is developed because they have certain items and they're not sure how to get them out of the home in a eco-friendly way.
So no waste. And I guess that's things like food and clothing and that side of it.
And then they worry about landfill and all their items going to landfill. But at that stage, it's about working on you and giving yourself some love. So it's about removing it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can do what you can, surely, and then the rest of it.
Definitely.
And would you recommend, if you sorted through, let's just say it's like an area, would you ever keep that in the house to sort out the next day, or would it very much be, as you're going through it, let's get it out?
Again, that varies between person, because sometimes it'll be like, ideally it needs to just leave that day because decisions can be reversed. But lots of clients like to sort items first, put them into their categories, have a look how many shoes they've got, how many books they've got, and then make the decision. So it might just be the sorting process first rather than that's staying, that's going. Depending on the type of person they are, they might say, I'm not ready to let that go, but I know I need to let it go. So that's waiting there for a week or two. And it's nothing we can ever enforce. We can just sit and listen, ask the right questions to enable our clients to start thinking about how they can develop new habits and start thinking in different ways about their belongings.
Yeah, and like you say, it just differs between everyone.
Definitely.
And I should imagine that really differs between that bag of out-of-date food and that sentimental item that you may have got from your late mum or dad or somebody's past. That's a question that comes up a lot, even while we're doing this show, not necessarily hoarding, but just decluttering. How do you have any tips for those sentimental items? I know we spoke about it a little bit earlier, but do you have any ideas that you can share when it comes to separating yourself from those boxes and boxes of photos and memories that you've got? You just can't keep them all.
Lots of people say they want to keep their sentimental items because when we talk about it, they feel like that memory's going to go when the item's gone. And it's about comforting people and letting them know that memory will still be there. But if you're fearful of that, there are ways of holding on to that memory in other ways, like photos, like journaling, like talking about it with family members on a regular basis. We can talk about memories as often as we want. And when we talk about them, they stay fresh in our mind. So it's good to talk about them, and then you know that they're not disappearing. Because the most common reason why people want to keep a hold of them is they feel they're going to lose that memory. And we have to remember we're always making new memories as well. So we have to let those new memories in also. So it's definitely.
I've heard, again, just things that I picked up whilst being here, things like photo books. You've got those boxes of photographs, you can turn them into wonderful memories that you can still look back on. But instead of 8 boxes, it's taking up just a picture book.
Exactly, and those sort of things are amazing. Like I said, photos, we can take photos of photos as well. We can take photos of belongings.
It must be quite fun to do as well.
Definitely, and with some clients we've created art. When people are hoarding, they hold on to a variety of things. An example is food wrappers from their families years gone by. So maybe they've been on a holiday and bought food wrap from a holiday destination. I don't know, an example might be fudge.
Yeah.
they've kept hold of those boxes, and we've made a memory in to be smart and put it in a photo frame with lots of like different packages in a photo frame. So yeah, so then rather than having a pile of all their boxes of food and empty food packets, let's choose our favourites, let's put them up there, and then easier to let the items go because they've always got that memory there.
That's nice as well, to not get rid of everything.
No.
And it's fun.
Yeah, and it's absolutely not about letting everything go. All of us live in homes, all of us have sentimental items, we might have put them in the loft, but it's not about saying nothing can stay. And if photos are something you want to keep, then keep your photos. But it's about finding a way through, finding that happy medium where your home feels more like a home, because often people say it's not feeling like a home, and feeling more comfortable in your home.
I think it's really nice to touch on that side of it as well, because it isn't just all the overwhelm, the scary and throwing away, it's actually creating this new one for them. It's probably your memories as well. Brilliant. Okay, let's does anyone have any questions at all they would like to ask? Yeah, brilliant. If you don't mind me popping down with the microphone.
Can we hear that? Yeah.
Going back to the photos, nowadays people have thousands of photos digitally. But if you've got boxes and boxes for the rest of the earth, how would you approach sorting those so that they're more manageable steps?
So it's about being ready, first of all. Thank you for your questions. It's about being ready, first of all. So you have to feel ready to go through the photos. If you're not at that space, then that's not for today. And like you said, they can be stored in various areas, they can be digitally stored, etc. And then we have to be careful we don't overload our digital devices. So it's about thinking which photos you want to keep, maybe having certain photos from an event. So maybe you had an event and you've got 250 photos from that era. Maybe choose some of them to keep, or take photos and save them on your memory sticks or your computers and those sort of things, or create collage so it's on display rather than in boxes, those sort of things. So you're not keeping all of them, you're keeping the ones that are very precious to you.
Okay, well we have a chat afterwards as well.
Yeah, follow
Yeah. Any other questions from anyone? Sorry, I'll turn around this way. No. Okay, well that's perfectly fine. Like I said, this is a very and it's a very specific topic as well, so sometimes we need to delve into it in a little bit more detail. We're going to have to wrap up here on this stage now. Just before we do that, where do we find out more about you and everything that you're doing?
So there's some cards on people's seats. If you click on the QR code, then it takes you to a list of areas you can contact me and my company. We have two arms of our services, we support people who are hoarding, but also we train people to work as we do. And like we said, if you want to chat, I'll be over here afterwards. I'm more than happy to chat with anyone, and I'm around all day. So, yeah.
In fact, you're back on here.
I am.
Aren't you? What time? 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.